On today's episode of the Something Unoriginal podcast, Logan Cook is joining us, and we're talking about travel.
Good times, man.
Good times. We dabble into a little bit of what it's like to travel alone versus traveling with people, travel horror stories, and a little place called Georgia. We're doing part two with my buddy Logan Cook here. Kind of touched on some cool stuff in that last episode, but we're getting into some travel. Logan here is known as probably you're my most traveling friend. I hope you know that.
Really?
Yeah, like hands down, nobody I know travels more than you, and it's pretty. You should be happy that that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's like something I'm proud of and partially a little like embarrassed of because it just means I spend a lot of money. But
hey, it's worth it though. Traveling and like getting those experiences cool. We also have another guest with us today, kind of special co-host. My wife Megs has joined us because she's way more into this travel stuff than I am.
Meg runs at your service.
Yeah. So periodically you'll hear from all three of us. So yeah, man. We talked a little bit in the last episode about Treehouse Lodge in Peru. Maybe we'll start from there, knowing that Megs
Yes, please.
also went to Peru.
That would be awesome.
Served your mission in Peru.
Okay, so Treehouse Lodge, Peru. Give me the rundown. I haven't heard about it.
okay. So it's an eco lodge in the Amazon. It's in Iquitos, or it's about 3 hours up the river from Iquitos. And it's like an all-inclusive lodge where you go and do excursions. So you literally live in a treehouse, and then you do a couple excursions a day. That can be anything from like fishing for piranha to like, going dolphin. As we went over in the last episode, actually, that there actually are dolphins in the Amazon River, and they're pink.
To me.
The pink
I
one?
had
Yeah.
no idea. It was news. I had never heard that before.
I don't know if you knew this, but I've been to Iquitos.
Oh,
I went
really?
on a humanitarian trip, and I stayed at the. I'll let you know if the name comes to me, but I was at a lodge.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you know.
Yeah, a little. I know your experience is a little different. They also did ayahuasca trips at mine. Did they do those?
Really? Yeah. So, Treehouse Lodge doesn't like officially like they don't have like a place for ayahuasca, getaways. But if you're going down, you can arrange it because there's just lots of connections and there's guides who know where to take you, or they'll take you to, a local village, and that's also one of the excursions. Is going and visiting local villages. I go down there and we'll play soccer with the villagers and, jungle walks, see the monkeys, sloths, catch a caiman at night. Like it's really cool, really fun.
That's so dope. What's like your favorite memory from when you went? Is it a place you go often? Sounds like you've gone multiple times.
Yeah, I've been about to Treehouse Lodge. I've been 3 times, and I've been to Peru like 5 times. It's just really fun being like just immersed in the culture because it's an experience where you're very off the grid. I mean, like here's something I'll say about travel is I'm very like against the like Americanized version of travel, So like you go to Cancun and you experience Cancun in like an American way. So like you go to you eat burgers for your lunch, and then they take you to go on a, like 4-wheeler ride through this like park, so that it's safe and so the Americans feel comfortable. And like nothing wrong with that, right? But I think one of the major benefits of travel is like being in the other, like in a new culture and like not just following some strict itinerary, but just experiencing, what like a day in the life. That's been some of my favorite moments, just like being in Italy and walking down the street, like walking down an alley, and there's like some guy who like makes his own pasta from scratch. You eat it, it's like the best food ever. Mm-hmm. And then you make friends with this guy. You're like our friends on Facebook now, and he sends you like, this is a true story, like sends me, you guys are like, this is getting really specific. Every September, he sends me a recipe, and yeah.
Like a new recipe?
Yeah,
no,
yeah. Like he actually does send me recipes, but yeah. So like it's that kind of thing where you like it's much more than just an experience. It's like continual like friendship made or memory.
What's the significance of September? Why does he send them to you in September?
Sorry, I was joking. I was joking about that. I was just joking that I was like being really specific. Like,
Yeah.
And then you go down this alley and there's this one guy named Pablito, and then he says, you know, I don't know.
That's so funny.
Oye, güey, ¿quieres tacos?
Yeah, in Italy. Oye, wait.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, Pablito. That is not an Italian name.
Yeah, you let in with Pablito.
That was my bad.
No, you're good. So, okay, other thoughts that come to mind with travel. I haven't traveled a lot. I want to. I feel super overwhelmed by like how things are going to go. So, transportation or like communication if people don't speak the language. I still would love to, and I love to experience travel the same way you do. Because that's like why I don't want to go on a cruise. Like everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, go on a cruise." No, that literally sounds like hell on a boat. Like you're just walking around the waves with a bunch of other American white people.
Yeah.
And then you go stop in Mexico for like a day to do American stuff. It's the weirdest thing. Like tourism catered to Americans is so wild to me.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how to make it more accessible in the way that you travel, like with the culture? Like how do you do that? What do you start with? What are the steps?
Yeah. You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Thank you. It's been my dream, actually.
Really?
We'll get to that in a second. It's more on travels. So let me know how you're feeling about this, and then we'll talk about it.
Awesome. So, yeah, that is, and it is like it is a big part. I think, so I'm somebody who wings things more. And sometimes, actually, a lot of the time, I like find myself in just really strange situations, and I get myself in trouble. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but I kind of just see it as part of the experience. You're not going to go there and just fit in perfectly. You're going to stand out regardless of where you go. And so I think, like, it's just laughing at yourself a little bit and, like, acknowledging that you're going to stick out like a sore thumb, but that you can also, one thing I always try to do is like show gratitude and show appreciation for their culture, their language, because that's one thing that I think we struggle with in America. And like I was this way, is I thought every single Latin America country like ate tacos and liked spicy food and had like a Mexican accent, and then now, like, after having lived in these countries, and like I'm sure you've had a similar experience, you realize like, wow, the difference between Argentina and Guatemala is huge. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, but more just that by doing that, by showing that gratitude and stuff, they kind of see you as a person and not just some mean tourist. I do think there's a lot of planning that comes into place, and it more depends on where you're going. If you're going to like Eastern Europe or the Middle East or like some Kazakhstan or something, like you're gonna want to get a lot more stuff like set in place because they don't really have the infrastructure in place. But in most places, in most countries, they have a tourism industry, and so they'll know how to like take care of you, and there'll be English speakers. But sorry, that was a very long-winded explanation for that.
It's a long question. It's so broad because every country is different, like you were saying too. So.
Yeah, like France, lived there. I wouldn't recommend it. Kidding.
Tell me about it.
Kidding. So I did a study abroad in France, and I was partially joking about that, but I do believe that, at least for me, a big part of travel is like the people. And anybody who's been to France can like attest that the culture is very different between American and French, and there's also just a lot of animosity. And so Americans, we're pretty loud, at dinner we're like loud and boisterous, and in France that's like a pretty disrespectful thing. They, more the French way is to be more reserved and to, drink your coffee and leave people alone, don't talk to people. But the thing is that like you go somewhere like Paris, they're so tired of American tourists that they're just very short and not willing to work with you. And so that is kind of a negative thing, but like, yeah, I think you got to do some research about the place. For me, I just say like France is really cool, but Italy and Spain, and I'd even say like Portugal, are cooler. So there's like nothing that France offers, in my opinion, that isn't offered by, those other countries. I know that's kind of a hot
from
take.
Logan Cook.
Yeah.
I'm about him. I think that's what makes it interesting. I have heard so many things about, not going to profile here, but about French people just having a really hard time with tourists. And I get it. Like, honestly, if that's the culture of being reserved, like sticking to yourself, no wonder they feel that way. If we're like so out there, not justifying it, but because I still think we should be friendly, but I could see why that would be kind of a bummer to live there and feel like you're literally being shamed and shunned everywhere you go.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said, there's like, it's cultural differences. Also, there's kind of this animosity between French and Americans. And like, no doubt, lots of stupid Americans go to Paris and are like, can I have a croissant? I don't know, just are dumb and loud. And so I don't blame them for that.
Yeah.
But, so like pretty common experience that I had is I'd go up to somebody, and it's kind of a thing in France that you should try and speak to them in French instead of English to at least show like an interest in their culture. The problem is that if you don't speak it well enough, they won't have it, So if you come up to them and speak to them in English, they'll ignore you. And if you come up to them in like try French, they'll just kind of like scoff at you a little bit and be like, what? And then they'll speak to you in English and be like, oh, you want to go over here? Like, and they'll do it from there. So I don't know. It's just like, I might have been too bold saying like, I don't recommend it, but I would definitely say go to the south of France over like Paris. Paris is like a really dirty city in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I've heard that about Paris, that it's like kind of a shithole.
I won't deny it.
Okay, carry on with the conversation. Sorry.
Well, we were talking about how Italy and Portugal and Spain were way cooler. What'd you do there?
Okay, so I'd say out of those countries, Italy's my favorite. Just in regards to like history, food, language, cars, like Italy. I love Italy. Like the architecture just has such a wide variety. So beautiful there.
There was a moment there I remember on the mission where you were trying to learn Italian. Did you end up actually learning more Italian? Like, did you continue with that?
Io parlo un po'. No, that's actually literally. Io parlo un poco di italiano.
That's so cool.
Did you just speak Portuguese and then realize that you were speaking Portuguese and then spoke Italian?
I said like the first part of the sentence in Italian.
Yeah.
And then I said the last part in French.
Oh,
then,
why did I think that was Portuguese? That's so funny.
Yeah. But,
wow. They're so similar, though.
So, I mean, that's like a thing for me is I was traveling a lot, but my French should be far better than it is. My Italian's better than my French, and I lived in France. And it's just because of that. Because I could, like, people wouldn't, like, really cooperate. They wouldn't really work with you or be like, oh, yeah, no, this is how you actually say it. It should be like, I spit on your stupid American accent.
How do they expect you to get better? That is the double standards.
Yeah.
That's too much.
So in comparison to Puerto Rico, where if you try and speak Spanish, they're like, oh, cute. Yeah, let's try it. You know what I mean? Where they're like the nicest people ever.
Yeah.
How is Italian and French compared to that? Or Italy and France compared to that?
Yeah, so I think Italy is a lot closer to that than France is.
Okay, so they're pretty tolerant of people learning. They actually care about the effort.
Yeah, and like anybody, they just appreciate, you showing an interest in their lifestyle and their culture. And so yeah, Italy, like I think is like Florence is probably my favorite city ever. I love Italy. I love Spain too. Barcelona is so cool. Portugal really blew me away. Like Lisbon is really cool. The other thing, I mean, with your question earlier about like travel in Europe is a lot easier. I mean, it's like, you're not driving your car everywhere, but like it's a lot cheaper because you can just train from any country to any country. And
That's so true. And they're close.
Yeah, and it's cheap, and so it's nice. You don't have that like the same struggles of, just figuring out like how to get. Like so you fly into, and now that Uber's around, it's a lot nicer. But like, you fly into Chicago and you're like, okay, I got to get over to this place. How do I do it? And you like try and find a way. But in Europe, it's a lot easier because they've got just stronger infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. That is really cool about them. Someday we'll go to Europe. We really want to go to the Nordic countries. I think that'd be super cool. I've got a lot of ancestry from there, but it's like on our bucket list for sure.
You totally should.
What would you give as like advice for people that are starting to travel that could make it easier for them, or that have that's made travel more enjoyable for you?
It depends on what you like to do for traveling.
For your version of travel.
Yeah. I'd say kind of just put yourself out there. And I know that's like super simple and basic, but to experience new things, you're going to be out of your comfort zone. Like that's just a given. When you go to a new country, it's really intimidating to like, I don't know, just go out and like be immersed in this culture. Like it's pretty intimidating because, and I was kind of saying this to Meg earlier, like you just stick out and you don't want to like give away that you're too American and stuff like that. But on the reality is that they know, and they're gonna know, and just don't worry about it, because we also, I feel like, have this, like in certain places like France, there's a definite thing, but I also think we project a lot. Like, oh, we're going to come down to this country and they're going to be like, oh, we hate you, when they have a completely different perspective and they really like you and it's like an honor to talk to you, And so I think understanding that you're not going to, like, that not everything's going to go perfectly too, so like that. And then, you're going to make mistakes. Crazy stuff's going to happen, your train's going to get canceled. And don't let it ruin your trip, because it's like it's going to happen, especially if it's like a long one. And at least for me, I'm not a very like structured person in life, but I have found, like, when I travel with friends who really have a solid itinerary and they're like, hey, I want to see this place, I want to see this place, and I want to eat at this restaurant, you're never going to be able to like hit all your things. And so, like, I think it's better to have kind of a guideline of, I'd like to do this, like to do this, like to do this, and then we'll see what happens along the way and kind of wing it. Which is, I don't know, it's scary, but it's also when I've had like some of my most memorable experiences.
That reminds me so much of our honeymoon. I grew up with a dad that was like super OCD about travel. Like he had planned out from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. what we were doing for every single hour without rest a lot of times. So like I really enjoyed that growing up because we got to do a lot of stuff, but then travel wasn't relaxing. So I'd never had like a relaxing trip before. And so we were planning our honeymoon and we were going to go to Puerto Rico, which is where Carter served his mission, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see all these things and we got to do all this stuff. And I had like this huge list, and I was like bummed on our third day because I was like, we're not gonna be able to see it all, and we just like, I want to be able to see everything that we've planned. And he was like, girl, you've never chilled on a vacation. Like, let's just take a sec. We'll just sleep in. We can do what we can. And then we'll just see what we can and we'll enjoy it from there. And it taught me to slow down and to relax a little bit more on vacation. And sometimes I get in that route where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I got to plan everything. But I really learned to just enjoy and slow down where I can. So that's been helpful. So thanks for the chips. The tips. Sounded like I said chips.
The chips.
I remember one time you and I were talking, having an interesting conversation about travel, and you were saying, like, one of the most underrated countries you had been to. I don't remember if you said it was, like, Georgia or Chad. Was it Georgia?
It was Georgia.
Okay, dude, what makes Georgia so cool?
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of exactly what I was saying, and just, like, one little addition to, like, what Meg was saying.
Yeah.
I think that is so true, and I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm a little too loose about stuff. And
Me
so
too.
I need, I have a friend who we travel together. He, plans everything, and then I'm just, along for the ride, and usually works out pretty well. With what you were just saying about Georgia,
Yeah.
it just caught me so off guard because, there's several countries and places that we always hear about. We hear about Rome, we hear about Paris, we hear about London, and the Eiffel Tower's in Paris, the Colosseums in Rome. London has the Eye or whatever it's called. And we kind of go in assuming we know everything about it. So that trip to Georgia was actually my senior trip with my dad. And my dad's a very big traveler and has always really been into it. And he's also really into mountaineering. And so for my senior trip is what we flew into Norway, flew into Bergen, Norway, and then we just trekked by train hopping and busing all the way through Sweden, Finland, into Russia, and then down through bottom Russia. It took a 23-hour train ride, nonstop. Worst commute of my life. And ended up in Pyatigorsk, southern Russia. And that's where we went and climbed Mount Elbrus, which is technically the tallest mountain in Europe.
Yeah.
Even though it's in Russia, it's really confusing. Western Russia is considered part of Europe.
Didn't you also skydive in Russia?
Skydived in Norway.
Oh, in Norway.
Yeah.
Okay, I misunderstood that.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. And we can go back to that if you want.
Continue. Sorry,
So I was
for
just
some
trying
reason.
to.
Yeah,
I was
you're
just
good.
trying to explain why I was in Georgia because you're like, well, why?
yeah, no.
That
Russia,
state.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, continue. I just thought for some reason I remember vaguely, but I was mistaken.
No, you're good. No stress, man. So Georgia is a country on the southern border of Russia, and it's just on the other side of Mount Elbrus, which is the I want to say Ural Mountains, but I think that's wrong. Might be the Caucasus. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But anyways, I was really amazed because Georgia was thriving. It was just this bustling little country that I never had heard about. Because we're not referring to the state Georgia here.
Yeah,
They've
we
got
do want to make that clear.
Yeah. Savannah,
talking
Georgia,
about Atlanta,
coolest place ever, man. Favorite country by
So
far.
exotic.
No, so when I came there, it was super unique because there was just this language and this culture there that I had never even heard of, completely foreign to me. I'd never seen it depicted in cinema, and they had this just entirely unique culture that I had never heard about. And then it made me just realize there's so many areas of the world that are like that I just group into oh yeah, that they're just they used to be part of the Soviet Union. But it was just a really cool city. So I actually paraglided in Georgia, and that was really cool.
Interesting.
But their capital city, Tbilisi, is really unique because it's got a lot of modern, unique architecture mixed in with ancient ruins,
Whoa.
And so it's just really, really unique mix of things. The language looks like Elvish,
What?
yeah, look up a picture of it. The Georgian language it's all curly and
All right, I'm gonna look up a picture. Continue.
But yeah, I mean, it was so cool. The food was super unique. That was kind of one of those moments where I was like, wow, I really like doing this.
Do you feel like that was the start of your love for travel? I mean, you'd been traveling before, obviously, right? But do you feel like that may have been the spark that
Yeah, that was the spark that made me want to dedicate a majority of my life to it. I want this to be a big part of my life. And also just this new culture that I because you at least in America, I kind of thought oh, I've seen it all, or I've heard it all at least, but I really haven't still. It's exciting.
It kind of reminds me of what you said in the beginning of the podcast when you were just grouping all of Southern and Central America together as Mexican people that liked tacos and spicy food.
Yeah.
So what was the culture of Georgia like? What do you remember from it that you liked that was new for you?
I think it was just such a stark contrast from Russia, because Russia's really cool, but there actually is a little bit of that, like some similarities with the French there, in that they're very serious. You know, like you don't like it's literally a thing there that you don't like smile to somebody on the street like if you like make eye contact, and it's because like they'll think you're like psychotic. Because it's like not a normal behavior in Russia, you know. So, it's not as like forthcoming. They're a lot more straight and or like short with you, and so, and it was also just like really depressing. Like you got outside of the major cities, just like really struggling. And
this
then
is in Russia, right?
yeah, Russia.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Lost track there.
no, you're good.
It wasn't your fault. I continue.
So yeah, Russia was kind of where once you got outside of the cities, it was really depressing and people living in, you know, pretty rough conditions. And then we got into Georgia and it was just this bustling, you know, city with friendly people, you know, people willing. It seemed like they kind of wanted to get, like they knew I didn't know anything about Georgia. And they're like, yeah, so what do you think about this? You know, and it was kind of like, you know, this desire to get their culture out there, and I thought that was cool, you know. It was just a very stark contrast.
That's also kind of Puerto Rican. Like they do that same thing kind of where they're like, "Oh, what did you think when you
Yeah.
when you heard the coquille? Huh?
Yeah.
What did you think about the huge Christopher Columbus statue on the north part of the island?"
Yeah.
So there's this thing in Peru. I served my mission in Peru, an LDS mission. There's Chuño. I don't know if you heard about it in Iquitos, because Iquitos is in the northern part, which is more of a jungle area.
Chuño.
Chuño.
I don't believe so.
So it's just more in the south, like Andean part of Peru, but they grow a lot of potatoes there. There's like 4,000 different types of potatoes or something. So to preserve those potatoes, part of the ancient culture is to stomp on them with your feet. Dry
Really?
them. Yeah. You stomp on them with your feet. You dry them out in the sun. You peel them a day later, and then you dry them out again for like 2 or 3 more days, and it turns them black.
No.
So you can preserve it for like 10 years or something crazy like that.
But
And
like
so,
in what condition? Like it's preserved,
They're
but does
just-
it taste good?
oh, it is. I never got used to the taste, but it was palatable enough that I could stomach it. But a lot of things were kind of interesting for me for the first time.
Yeah.
Won't hate on Chuño. Love that for them. But basically, it's like this little black potato that's dehydrated, and you cook it in soup. But that was like the thing that they asked me about in Peru. Was like, oh my gosh, what do you think about Chuño? And I was in like, when I first got to Peru, I was put in like the trash bin of Peru. Basically, like my mission, like we had 4 different areas. There was like the jungle part. There was like a warm place with mosquitoes. Then there was the southernmost part, which was like dry desert, really underdeveloped. And then there was Cusco, which is like city, just people everywhere. And so I was put into this area.
That was like the southern.
It was the southernmost part where in my mission, it was Juliaca, which is like amazing people. But once the climate gets colder, the people kind of get a little colder as well.
Yeah.
I was the only white person. I had one other elder, which is a boy missionary that I was with that was on the other end of the city. But it was like my first area that I was ever in, so I had to like learn Spanish just on the fly with a bunch of other Peruvians. So it was just kind of like culture shock there. But
Yeah.
Chuño, super funny. Tunta as well. They do that same type of thing. But they leave potatoes in a river for like 3 weeks, and it turns them white, and they can do the same thing. It's like dehydrate them and preserve
Really?
them. Yeah, it's so crazy.
What's that? Is it called Papa Salawancaina or something?
Oh my gosh.
What are
my
those?
favorite dish. I will. So basically, it's like they just cook potatoes. They like boil them, and there's this yellow pepper. I can't remember what it's called, but they make a sauce out of the yellow pepper, and they put like cheese, milk, that pepper, and I think like some spices like salt, pepper, a couple other things. It's a really just delicious sauce over potatoes. It's so freaking good. Have you ever had it?
I think I've had it once.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Peruvian cuisine is just amazing.
It is so good. Yeah, don't worry, everyone. Chuño and Tunta you'll never find anywhere. Other Peruvian cuisine is super good.
No,
you guys will
they
love
got to
it.
get some like lomo saltado.
Tallarines verdes.
Yeah.
Fish.
What's the bistec a lo pobre.
Yeah, so good. I'm simple. I love a little arroz con huevo, but anyone can make that. My favorite dish, I would say, is papas a la huancaína or lomo saltado. You can never go wrong with those.
Oh yeah.
Fried yuca is really good too. They have these little yuca balls in some places. If you ever hear about those, go get them. They're so good. Oh, you've had Peruvian cuisine.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Oh, it's good.
Sorry to bring it back to Peru. That's my one out of country experience I can relate to.
No,
So
Peru's amazing. Peru's so diverse too. Like,
yeah.
I really want to go to the South because I haven't experienced the South, and because I mean, I don't think a lot of people know that. Like, because there's the jungle of Peru, right? And then there's Lima, which is like a big bustling city with like, you know, a strong economy. And then Cusco is like Machu Picchu. A lot of people know about Machu Picchu, but then they don't know there's like also like desert in Peru and like oases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like what's that? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like
Yes.
Huancayo or something.
Yep, that's the one. Huancayo.
Yeah.
Like middle of the desert. There's a bunch of sand hills, and then there's just this oasis of water. It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's so much to do in Peru too. In my mission, I remember we had these free days on Mondays called P days. On those days, we would get to do whatever we wanted, basically. And we would just go find ruins, and we'd ask the locals, like, hey, do you know of anything? And in the South, there's a lot of untouched ruins because there's not a lot of development. So me and my companion would just, like, go and find ruins to go see. And they were free, or, like, a couple soles, which is, like, $1 or $2 to go see. And it's just amazing how the culture is preserved. Still to this day, like, Incan culture isn't very prevalent, I would say. Maybe more in, like, the jungle. There's more culture from, like, way back when. But people still honor their ancestors. They honor Mother Earth, which they call Pachamama. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but
I haven't,
like
actually.
Something that I thought was pretty cool. They have a place in the South that's called the Lake Titicaca. You've probably heard of that place. Have
People living on rafts or like floating houses on the lake.
Yep. So they make the floating houses, like the way they do that is they have reeds, I believe, and then they like put grass on top of it. There's a bunch of lake grass around, and they just live on floating islands. It's super cool. And I want to know why. I wish I knew more about that, but
yeah,
I'll have to look into that later. So what is, when you were talking about like stuff that went wrong in your travels, I was curious as to what was like the most dumpster fire thing that had happened to you while you were traveling.
Man, yeah, I've got some wild stories. Well, so like one example is, you know, that senior trip I was talking about in Sweden. My dad and I went on a hot air balloon ride, and we ended up crash landing the hot air balloon.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
So
you gotta get in depth with that one, man. You can't leave me hanging.
Yeah. So we just last minute like decided like, oh, it'd be really cool because Sweden's beautiful. It's just like the land of lakes and trees. It's also not an ideal spot for finding a landing place. Land of lakes and trees.
Okay, yeah, I guess. But I was expecting like a gust of wind into like the mountain. But all right, this is definitely.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe
this is still a great. You're painting a picture of falling into a lake.
So what happened is you like hot air balloons. You can only control going up or down, and that's with the torch they use. You know,
vertically.
Yeah. So we go on this hot air balloon ride, and it kind of just seems sketchy from the beginning. Like these guys just. So for example, like I had to like let go of. So the hot air balloon was mounted to the ground, and to like let it go is you pull out the stake with the rope on it, and they had me do it because I was the youngest there. But I'm like, shouldn't you have like a professional do this? So I literally like it like wasn't like crazy, but I mean I literally like it was a couple feet off the ground by the time I got there. I had to like jump and get in.
Yeah.
And I was like, this just seems very like unregulated, but anyways, we go, and basically the wind is like pushing us towards the ocean, and so our pilot starts panicking, and because we're in Stockholm, right? It's a like a coastal city, and so we just like keep getting closer and closer, and our pilot is getting nervous and like sweating and can't find a place to land. Finally, we see this nice field that we're gonna land in. So we go down to land, and we don't have enough time. And right behind it are these big flag poles. It's like some kind of park, and it's a dirt bike park actually. And
What?
so we go down to. Did I describe this well? Like, so we go down to land in this field.
No, you're describing it fine, but dirt bike? I didn't. A dirt bike
Yeah,
park?
or maybe it was like BMX or something.
Still, that's okay.
Yeah. But we
Dope as hell.
we come down to land. Doesn't have enough time, so we start pulling up to clear these flag poles, and these things are like 50 feet tall.
Oh,
so
geez.
we're like close to landing, and then pulls up, and then right behind it is the dirt bike park, or the whatever it was, and I think my dude is just like on his last leg. He's just like he's just scrambling to survive, and so because we're also running out of whatever the fuel is. I can't remember what it is. I want to say helium, but I don't think that's right.
That would be so cool.
We all have like really high voices.
You're all just kidding.
Wow!
It's so beautiful up here.
The crash landing in a high voice.
I can see the ocean. I love how your high voice is Smeagol.
No, you don't want to see my Spiegel. It's too good.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
I'm not doing it.
Oh,
Not on the air. Not yet, at least. We'll get
maybe
there.
a little later.
Sorry.
It's a preview, everybody.
So, anyways, dude starts to land at the BMX park, and so we crash into the side of a jump. We hit a tree on the way down,
Oh,
and it just totally
jeez.
wrecks the hot air balloon.
Oh,
So like it gets bent over, and it was pretty sketchy. But the weird thing was like these guys were not apologetic at all. They're like, "Well, we got to get it out of here," and it's like this thing's like weighs tons, and it's like the hot air balloon itself, like the balloon itself, weighs tons. It's just a fabric that's
yeah.
hundreds of feet like in length.
Were
so-
they like assuming you would help?
Yeah, people were just leaving left and right. It's like people were just like, "Yeah, we're done," and walked off and left without paying.
Wait, so how many people were on this hot air balloon with you?
There's probably about 10.
No way. I thought it was like you and your dad and this guy.
Oh no, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The story develops.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't set the scene very well.
No. You're good. I'm glad we clarified that though. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of people in it, and they're like panicking and freaking out the whole time. Like we had like an older couple. It's like, well, and also so like it was raining by the end of it, so we're in this BMX park. It's muddy, so we're like trudging through mud. We were supposed to be home at like 8. It's like 10,
Oh,
and yeah, it was just a nightmare. But that's one.
wait, what did you do? Like, did you just leave it there, or you
Finally,
get home?
another guy came and was like, "You can't make them carry this out of here." Like, I think he's like, one of the higher ups, and they gave us like a bottle of champagne. And we're like, "We're really sorry, but we still expect payment." And I was someone, I'm like, "Dad, just pay them half, if anything." And he paid him full price. So, good job, Vance. I
Well
wouldn't
done.
have done it.
Well done, Vance. You're the guy. So I on interesting travel experiences. I vaguely, again, these are vague things that I remember. I vaguely remember you saying getting into Russia is really hard.
Yeah.
Like you had to get like an invitation from somebody or something or whatever it was. Like elaborate on that.
On my passport, I have a Russian visa. Like, some of my friends like joke that I'm like a sleeper agent, like a KGB. Just waiting for my time to strike. But I literally have a full-on visa to Russia, and you have to be invited by somebody or like an entity. So the people that were helping us to climb Mount Elbrus had to send like a formal invitation, and we had to go through all this work. And there's other places that are like that too, but yeah, you can't just stroll right in.
Has that always been the case, or was that more so something that was during that time? Like, I guess I don't know, because that was even before like what's going on in Russia right now, right? Like,
Yeah, I
maybe
think
it's always been that way.
I think it's kind of always been that way. I think regulations were even tighter like before when like when it was like the Soviet Union, or there's just like instability from World War One, World War Two.
Yeah. Putin's just like, nobody come into Russia.
We don't like your
We
kind.
don't like you. This is our land. Back off. I don't know where I was going with that after that, but I'm glad that we know the process of getting into Russia now.
Yeah, in
if
case you
anybody
need
was
to,
curious.
in case you need to get in.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. Meg's had a question.
Yeah, I do. So I had heard that you lived in Brazil for a little. Is that right?
Yeah.
Kate, how long were you there, and what was a day-to-day like? Tell me about that.
So actually, with Treehouse Lodge, they do some wildlife stuff, and I love animals. I'm really passionate about the environment, and so with Treehouse Lodge, we've done a couple things like the turtles. We rescue baby turtles so they don't get eaten, and then we let them hatch and then keep them in a little sanctuary until they're old enough to kind of survive on their own. And then we release them and we let the guests be involved. And we also have like a little island where we have some monkeys that are like rescued from the pet trade. They're there. And I would love to like further develop that because there's a lot of cool stuff we could do.
Are these the type of monkeys that will rip your eyes out of sockets, or are these nice monkeys?
I mean,
that was sarcastic.
I think all monkeys are capable of that. So, I mean, yeah, like I wouldn't, it's not like
you wouldn't put them past them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, don't count on it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm
terrified
if
of
you're
monkeys,
smart about
by
it.
the way, just so you
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah, I'm so scared of monkeys.
Really? Oh, they're so fascinating. But yeah, they're scary, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Like if it were between being in a cage with a chimp and a lion, I think I would rather be in a cage with a lion.
I'm on the same. Yeah, I'm with that.
You
sure.
I mean, like, have you heard like what they do? Like, I'm like what you just said. They go for like extremities.
Yeah.
And weak spots. So they'll tear your eyes out. They'll this is inappropriate for any children viewers, but they'll go for your genitalia.
Yeah.
Tear it off.
Dude.
Tear your nose off.
Yeah.
Like.
Just when provoked, or just for funsies? Just because they can?
No, they just do it once a week. Just it's a ritual.
You're like, up 4:00 Saturday, let's go.
Kids, come on, we gotta go. Gotta go tear off some genitals.
Dude, I've heard nut stories about monkeys. Like,
oh yeah,
dude, and they got weird strength, like way stronger than you would expect.
Stronger than us by far.
Oh yeah, at least comparatively, right? Like, I mean, you probably can outmuscle a chimp, but at the same time, like,
dude,
really?
No, they're stronger than us.
You were not kidding. You were
I'm
dead
serious. They're stronger than us.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I'm like terrified of them, man.
Yeah, me too. I thought they just like, I thought pound for pound they were stronger, but I thought like something smaller we could outmuscle.
So, like overall, like out of all the monkeys, like I think you'd rather be in a cage with a gorilla than a chimp.
No way.
Yeah, because they're really aggressive too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like what you're saying, yeah, they're more like I think it's when provoked, but they're not like you can't just domesticate them like dogs. Yeah.
I've heard people try, and that's when they get their faces ripped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mean, did you that lady?
I think this is the story I heard.
She was taking care of her neighbor's chimp or something.
Yeah.
And super good friends with this chimp, like homies.
Been with it before, yeah.
And was taking care of it while her friend was on vacation or something, and like does something wrong, right? And chimp tears her face off and eats it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has gotten dark really quickly.
Anyway, yeah. So sorry about that side tangent there. Back to Brazil. What it's like, get back to the monkey island.
So yeah, these animals that are so ferocious and kill people, I want to
preserve them.
Yes, I'm really passionate about them and want them to live their best lives.
Just because they're face-eating animals does not mean that they don't deserve a second chance.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
what I mean? Maybe they're just misunderstood.
Exactly. Maybe, I was going to go somewhere with it wasn't going to work. We'll just abandon that joke before we even get to it.
The reason I was explaining that, though, is just because this was summer of 2021 that I went down to Brazil for a month. And I volunteered at a wildlife sanctuary in Curitiba. And it was just outside of Curitiba. And I did that firstly because I really just wanted to go to Brazil and learn Portuguese and like experience it.
Immerse yourself in it.
And then I also thought it could be, a cool opportunity to potentially in the future, if we want to do something like that at Treehouse Lodge, start an animal sanctuary initiative. And so what it was like down there is I just lived at this sanctuary and I was a caretaker. And so I don't really know why, but I know partially is because I was so immersed in it, but I learned Portuguese to like a decent extent. So like I'm proficient in Portuguese. I was at a Brazilian party last night actually. And then I lived in France for 5 months and I don't speak French. Like my French is very minimal. And it's like so frustrating. I don't really know how to make sense of it. But anyways, part of it was because I was just with these workers and they're down in southern Brazil. It's pretty cold actually. And so we just fed the animals, we prepared the food and then we'd clean up their areas. And then, the time I had free, I just explored Brazil. And it was just really cool. I would really recommend solo traveling, like at least once to anybody. Just because there's just a lot of freedom in like doing exactly what you want and not having to like cater to the group. Then again, though, it's awkward going out to dinner and eating at a table by yourself. So like, I mean, I think I would always rather have a friend, traveling, but solo traveling is pretty cool too because I'd wake up and I'm like, I'm going to go see that waterfall. Like that's 12 hours away and I don't have to worry about, my friends being like, oh no, I don't really want to do that. Or like, where are we going to eat lunch? Like kind
of a what are we going to do today Ferb thing, but like with you and your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was kind of a stretch, but I mean, I understand what you're saying.
I like the tie-in. I like it.
I mean, that was the way that I thought about it originally.
When you're super knowledgeable about like cinema and television and
yeah, I watch too much.
spend a lot of time on my couch.
I watch.
No, dude, I didn't mean that at all. Like you know a lot about like the background, like the
pop culture,
the story, the history of like series and stuff. I mean, you'd always like tell me interesting stuff like about like Rick and Morty or Adventure Time.
That's true. That is true. That's a good point. I'm the type of person that like for some reason when I like something, I will learn everything about it.
Oh yeah.
Like the other day I was trying to show a coworker Ben Folds, and I haven't listened to Ben Folds in years, but I remember so many different stories about certain songs that he has. Like there's this one song called Army that the start of the song he goes, well, I thought about the Army. Dad said, son, you're effing high. And apparently what happened was he was really debating whether or not to try weed for a while. And he and I might be butchering the story, but from what I remember, he was debating whether to try weed for a really long time, and he finally did, like just one time alone in his bedroom, and he like got super blazed and was like, maybe I'm gonna join the army. And like walked out and was like, Dad, I think I'm gonna join the army. And he was all, son, you're effing high. He was all, does he know? No, he can't. Does he know? And I don't know, for some reason stuff like that, like I just retain really well.
Yeah, and it's a skill, dude. I think that's great skill set for a podcast host.
I appreciate that. Man, you just keep complimenting me. I just can't. I gotta put it back on you. You know what I mean?
Well, now we're gonna cut to our some advertising from our sponsor, birdsaren'treal.com.
For more information, visit r/birdsaren'treal.
Reddit.
Yeah.
Sources, trust me, bro.
Sources in 1979. Yeah, that's like the premise behind their page. I was like,
this happened to my friend Derek.
It's good stuff. Anyway, back to the actual subject though. So, yeah, man, Brazil was pretty cool from what I hear.
Yeah, so Brazil was just really cool. I basically just got to explore it, and so same thing. They're like Puerto Ricans, just very welcoming and loving and want to show you their culture, but also like appreciate that you've shown interest in theirs, and are just impressed with even a little bit of progress like in their language. And for me, it just makes a huge difference in like your experience there. Like you could be in the most beautiful place on earth, but like if you feel like everybody hates you and you're all self-conscious, like you won't appreciate it.
That's true, yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of a weird analogy, but
Well, so you had mentioned too, like traveling solo is different than traveling with people, right?
oh yeah.
So do you feel like your experience in Brazil would have been drastically different if you were with somebody else?
Oh, absolutely,
And that you
yeah.
needed it to be kind of solo to have. Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm asking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, like, and I think, you know, this could be applied to like life even. When you're splitting. So I had a couple friends who were going to come down to Brazil with me. And I actually had to postpone the trip like a year because of COVID and stuff like that. And it didn't end up working out. But it was a time where I didn't have any responsibilities. And so maybe it's like that's why I enjoyed it so much, is because I could just focus on myself, you know. And many people may find that like, you know, self-centered, but I think it's actually very important to dedicate time to yourself. And when you're visiting a new area, you know, everybody has kind of different desires. You know, some people are traveling for like the food. Honestly, like they want to try authentic, and that's awesome. Like I'm partly that way.
Yeah, that's my buddy Caleb. He's that same way.
Yeah.
Like he mostly travels to try new food.
Yeah. And so yeah, so I think I guess more of the point is to find people that you'd like to travel with, you know, and that you guys will be like you're kind of in sync. So I think, you know, you guys traveling together, and I'm sure you've experienced that, is you have a really good time because obviously like you guys maybe will want different things, but you're like learning from each other and you enjoy being with each other. When I was in France, we did like several weekend trips, and there's like lots of ways to go about traveling. And with this particular group, they were like very heavily focused on the nightlife. But so much so that they didn't really experience. I didn't feel like they experienced the culture and the place enough. That's a fun part of travel too, is experiencing the nightlife, going out and seeing, you know, how people party, how they celebrate. It's a really great way to connect with people. You know, you've got a couple drinks and you're a lot more humble, and you're like willing to reach across the bar like, hey, what's up? You know, which times, at least for me, I'm not like typically doing just like at a restaurant. So it's really awesome night. Like I wouldn't say like avoid nightlife or anything. I think it's really fun, but I think you have to balance it out, because with this group, we'd be up till 3 a.m. and then go back to apartment. Like half people would be sick. Everybody would be hungover until the next day. And then they just start drinking just to like be alive in time to hit up the clubs again. And we'd be in like beautiful places like Lisbon, like the Amalfi Coast in Italy, and like incredible places that you want to explore, but like nobody has the energy to do it. So I mean, that's kind of more what I mean is you're gonna be in this place, you know, do what you want to do. It's not fun to always feel like, oh well, I want to go do this, but they don't really like to leave the house. They want to like stay at the Airbnb, or they want to sit by the beach, or the opposite. Somebody's like, yeah, I want to go like get a picture of this, and they don't really experience it. Like, well, dude, why don't we just chill at the beach for today? Let's have a beach day. So I don't know.
Yeah, I find that balance for sure. Yeah. One thing I got to bring attention to. All right, we briefly talked about it before we started this, and I don't know if you and Megs talked about it when I stepped out there for a phone call for a minute, but you are now an F1 fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh.
An Aston Martin fan specifically.
Yeah.
Correct. Because, you know, you're a big fan of Aston Martin. I'm a Mercedes fan myself.
Oh, okay.
Just because I'm a sucker for... Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
I just mouthed something to him for our viewers.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I get it. I'm a sucker for the GOAT. And so
Mercedes is solid. No, I don't disagree.
well, and when I got into F1, which was really this last season, Mercedes was really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And so to like me jumping in, they were kind of the underdog,
Yeah.
which is funny because for the past 8 seasons up until this last
Lewis
one.
Hamilton's been just wrecking.
Oh yeah. Which, obviously is way out of place knowing the last 8 seasons Mercedes has won the Constructors' Championship and Lewis has won 7 out of the last 8 or 6 out of the last 8 championships. So like they're not an underdog, but like when I jumped in they kind of were. And
But
so
yeah,
that's why I'm a big
you're not
fan.
like coming in after like Steph Curry,
Yeah.
You're not like a total bandwagoner.
Yeah, it's not the 2015 Warriors winning a championship going into the 2016 season.
You're more like LeBron, like bringing his talents to South Beach, like kind of hopping on around that time.
Yeah, we can come up with references all day. But specifically, there's a situation that we've talked about previously a little bit. But I want to know a little bit more about this because you obviously got into F1 after this, but you took a trip to Italy. It was honestly, I'm pretty sure this was the first race that I watched was Imola, that got me like really into it because I had watched the movie Rush or something. I don't know why I'm giving so much backstory. I watched the movie Rush, got really into F1, and then Imola 2022 was the first race I'd ever actually watched. And I'm getting Snapchat stories of you in Italy, like half an hour down the road from Imola.
Yeah, I was in Bologna. Yeah.
Yeah, like super close. Like
You're like obviously he's
Yeah.
there for the F1, right?
that's what I thought. Yeah, genuinely, I was like, oh, he's like going to the race.
Had
So.
no idea. That is so funny. That's more just like telling about me, or I'm like how much I wing it while traveling. Like I don't know. So Bologna is a really cool city in Italy, but it's not necessarily like touristic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in between Venice and Florence, and so I stopped there, and I stopped there. So like I've always loved cars, and that's why I love Aston Martin. Obviously, I don't love Aston Martin because I think they're gonna win anytime soon.
Yeah.
But Aston Martin's my favorite vehicle, vehicle make.
For sure.
And so when I went out there, I toured the Ferrari and Lamborghini museums and their like factories. So I went out to like Emilia Romagna.
The track out there, the Emilia Romagna.
Yeah. So which is Lamborghini, or the Lamborghini headquarters is there, and then Ferrari's is in Modena, and then they have a track in
It starts with an M.
Maranello.
Maranello.
Yeah, exactly. So I went out there, and then I heard about the race when I was there,
Yeah.
but
You went like a day after the race or whatever to
Yeah.
the Ferrari.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I was
factory.
like the day of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people were coming from the races and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Keep going. Sorry.
But yeah, so it's funny that I didn't know that. But my dad had been trying to get me into F1 for a while, and like I'd watch, a little bit of the Netflix series and stuff, but I'd never really like truly embraced it. But now, it's so funny that I did that, and my dad gives me crap for that too, and my uncles.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you were right next
Just
to
because
it.
I had no idea. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, what's all this ruckus? Like,
Yeah. I think tickets to that were like pretty cheap still for some reason. Like I don't know how much they would have been, but I feel like I remember looking them up and being like, it was like $40. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They were like lawn seats or something on
Yeah.
the side of the track, but
that would be something though that wouldn't be as fun by yourself though.
yeah, that's for sure.
Because I mean there's pros and cons to
Just alone looking at the track. Thinking,
yeah. I mean yeah, because like say you get a good spot, say
Yeah.
you get a good view, like it's an all day thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really cool experience, but like if I were just by myself, I think I'd feel like extremely self conscious. Just like people are like, who's this child here? Like, are you looking for your mom?
Yeah. Dang, man. Well, last thing we'll probably end on. Megs and I are planning a trip for our anniversary here in the next month. We're going to Austin, Texas,
Oh,
to which you have been to watch the race in Coda. But did you do anything else in Austin while you were there? And is there anything we should see or do while we're there?
Yeah. So I've been to Austin twice.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a friend who lives out there. I would say, so when we went the other time, it was to go to the Coda. You know, we went to the F1 race, and I didn't experience too much, but I went to 6th Street, which is kind of the famous street in Austin with like the bars. It's kind of like a Nashville experience.
Yeah, for sure. Live music and stuff.
Yeah, really cool. It was really cool. I actually, so I want to move to Austin actually once I graduate.
Really?
Yeah, because it's kind of a growing tech hub.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a great place for Loop actually, like HQ for Loop.
They're more liberal than the rest of Texas.
Yeah.
They're more embracing of stuff like that.
Yeah. And, but then they're in a red state, so that they like don't have like the recycling infrastructure. So
yeah, and solid laws, lenient for businesses and stuff.
Yeah,
that's a great idea, man.
Thank you.
You know, that is a brilliant idea.
So yeah, let's if you guys like it, come out and visit. Or we can all just move in together.
Let's do it. If it was not so damn expensive,
Yeah.
I would totally move out there.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, though, like, who knows? Maybe the podcast pops off. We're rolling in money for some reason because of all the sponsors. Athletic Greens, you know, if you're hearing that. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, birdsaren'treal.com.
Yeah, birdsaren'treal.com. Text unoriginal to 500 for Audible, stuff like that. But no, yeah, one day, like, it'd be sick. That would be, like, a dream place for me to live. I don't know about Meg's, but
I think it'd be cool. I just want to afford a house someday. I would love to not pay rent for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
We'll see how the economy goes in the next 10 years.
Yeah. We aren't growing up in our parents' time, though.
yeah,
Like,
you could buy a house for $1.50 and a pack of cigarettes.
Dude, that's so funny.
I want that one.
Have you seen? I wonder if you've seen this. It's like a comedian, and he's joking about that, like where he's talking with his parents, and they're telling him, "Well, yeah, I bought this house, like our house, like our main house, with 3 blueberries and a raspberry." It's like they're like, "I just don't understand why you guys are still living with your parents." Like, well, maybe that's because rent is $2,000 for a 2 square foot studio.
Yeah. You have to poop next to my bed,
Yeah.
and it's $4,000. Yeah.
Gosh, man, it's like we're in Hong Kong.
Have you been to Hong Kong?
No, but
neither have I. Rumors, though. Many rumors.
Yeah, hear a lot, you know.
Yeah. A lot of problems in Hong Kong.
Hey, Cook, where are you going to travel to next?
So I think I'm trying to do a Puerto Rico trip for spring break.
Yes.
Good move.
Have you been back yet or no?
I've gone back twice, like right after my mission.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I go back now, it's gonna be a very different experience.
I bet.
And I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
But big trip wise though, I want to do Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like I'm a big Argentina fan. I was really happy about Messi, and originally my Brazil trip, I wanted to make it a Brazil to Argentina, maybe even Chile trip.
Mm-hmm.
But
Are you trying to hit like Patagonia and stuff while you're out there?
yeah, Patagonia, then do like Mendoza,
Okay.
then cross to Buenos Aires, and then maybe check out Uruguay. Do like a 2-week trip.
Oh, heck yeah. That'd be dope.
I just want to do another Italy trip because I love Italy.
It's a great place to be, man.
Food's amazing.
They got 2 F1 races on the calendar there. So, you know, you have
Let's
a
go.
50-50 shot to hit it.
Yeah.
We want to go to the Mexico City one, but if Italy may be better because when if either Red Bull or Mercedes beats, you know, Ferrari, which will inevitably happen, it'll be funny to see a lot of pissed off Ferrari fans. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong reason to go.
No, dude, I think it's a valid reason to go. I was gonna ask you, just real quick, if there was like one place you could go. I know that's kind of a basic question, but if there's one place you could go and money is not a concept, like money is out of the picture, and you're just going, like where would it be for both of you guys?
Do you know off the top of your head?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll probably say Tokyo.
Okay.
I want to go to Tokyo real bad. I feel like it'd be kind of expensive. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually pretty cheap. But for some reason, to me, in my head, that's like the most expensive trip.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I was gonna say, like, I think flights are like way more than if you were to go to Europe or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Tokyo. I just feel like it's a cool culture that I want to experience.
So unique.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really want to go to Japan. I really do.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Dude, I'm down.
Yeah, man. What do you think, Max? Where do you think yours is?
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
I would love to go. It's so green. Nature is a huge pull for me.
Oh, yeah?
Travel. I've really connected with myself through nature, and I love finding other beautiful spots in nature, especially since it's really unlike where we're living right now. It's like just super different. So
Yeah.
that'll be super fun.
How about for you? Does that change, or is it still Argentina? Like your next trip?
What, like, if I could go like anywhere, one big one I really want to do is Indonesia.
Oh, that'd be a cool one.
Do Bali, of course, but also like.
It's pronounced Bali. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're one of those guys, huh?
I would just mess around.
Yeah,
don't
well,
care.
just don't let it happen again.
Okay.
Me acting like it's my podcast. I'm like reprimanding you.
You're a guest here. I like it.
Sorry, I should know my place. But yeah, I mean, overall, Southeast Asia looks amazing. Really
Yeah,
want to go.
for sure.
Super cheap. Snorkeling looks amazing. Weather's amazing.
Heck yeah. Cool. Well, there's our dreams. We'll hit it. Thanks again for part 2. This has been a long night. I mean, listeners are not going to know this, but we just recorded both of the Logan Cook podcasts back to back. So
and we're going on to finalize the trilogy next.
3 in a row. 3 in a row. Anyway, it's been a good time. Thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And let's do this again sometime.